Hello and welcome back to another episode of MC Airsoft. My name is Mark and today we're going to be going over the first 5 things you should buy after your gun when getting into Airsoft. Okay. So I've done other videos in the past about how expensive is Airsoft and things like that, and kind of hit on a lot of the same subjects, but we're just going to compile it into one video for the sake of brevity, right? So in this video, we're going to assume you've been playing for a little bit, maybe with rentals, maybe you borrowed guns, whatever the case is. Airsoft guns, obviously, is what we're talking about, not pellet guns, not real guns, but airsoft guns. So what are the first things you should buy after you purchase your gun, or maybe before, right? Because you can definitely be a rental and pick up some of these items along the way. Obviously, rentals are going to include, at least they should include, one magazine, generally a high cap. They should include a battery. Okay, so there are certain differences. Obviously, you're not going to be changing out optics and batteries and things like that on a rental, at least most of the time, unless you're really in tight with the field. You're probably not going to be exchanging those things. So we're going to assume that you're past the rental stage, you just bought your first AEG, or maybe you're buying these things and then going to be buying an AEG, so you already have them on hand. But either way, they're purchases that I would say you buy your AEG, you run that as much as possible until you can buy these things. And the first thing, so we're going to go in my own personal preference order of priority. Okay. So basic AEG, let's say you bought your AEG, it came with a high cap, did or did not come with a battery. It doesn't really matter, because most of the time, unless it's a bundle put together by the company, that battery and charger are going to be garbage. Okay, so let's say you bought it, came with some kind of sights, right? It could be flip up sights like this. Okay, got a flip up sight on the front. Maybe it's like when I bought my Mark 12. This was originally a JG M16, so it came with the charging hand or the carrying handle, came with a A-frame front sight. Sniper rifles you should not be buying as your first gun, so we'll leave that off. But it could be something like this AK, right, which is actually a pretty solid starter gun, which has rear sight and front sight built in. Obviously I've done some other stuff, added some stuff, but it has the sights built in. So you have a gun, it came with a high cap, it has sights. What do you buy next? First thing I'm going to say is most guns will come with a charger, something like this top one. It is not a smart charger. It does have a light to tell you when it's done, but these chargers are garbage and they will ruin your batteries. If your gun came with a battery, maybe that's fine, right? Buy yourself some time to save up a little bit more money, get a good battery, run that battery until it dies, because it will. But it's probably going to come with a charger like this one on top. Garbage. You're not going to want to use that on any batteries you're actually spending money on. So thought those were tied together. But so something like this, there's a power cable that normally comes out this side. But something like this, smart charger, okay, it has a 1 amp charge, a 2 amp charge, has a green light, has an auto cutoff. These are things you're gonna want to look for, especially the auto cutoff. You're probably gonna want something that has a discharger on it. What that is when you plug in your battery, it discharges it and then gives it a fresh charge. It's better for the health of the battery. You want something, so this says from 4.8 to 10.8 volts, nickel metal hydride, nickel CD battery. Not sure what CD stands for because I use the nickel metal hydrides with it. Okay, so something like that is going to be a good starter charger. It is not a LiPo charger. I don't necessarily think that people should have to buy LiPo when they get into Airsoft, right? I'm still running old school batteries, though I am looking to change over. And if you're just getting into Airsoft, you already spent $200-300 on a gun, save some money, get a nickel metal hydrate battery. You can also learn a little bit more on these of how to charge batteries, how long the battery is going to take to charge and all that, and have a ammo can or a battery bag. You can buy that for a LiPo, use it on these. They don't need it, but you know, why not? And then upgrade to LiPo later on down the road. You don't need to spend the money to jump into LiPo right away. So something like this. I say more money because while the batteries are negligible in price depending on what you're getting, chargers are about the same price depending on what you're getting. But then you need something to charge them in so they don't burn down your house. You need a MOSFET, generally speaking. So there's other costs added to it. Okay. So my first recommendation for a purchase would be something like that. That battery is a 9.6. You can get whatever fits your gun. Top out at 9.6 would be my recommendation. But you get a good battery and a good charger. I would recommend 2 batteries, but that's just me. And so that should be your first purchase after a gun, or maybe with a gun, right? Your second purchase I would recommend is going to be magazines. Now, if you're fine with high caps, maybe it's a second high cap, okay? But generally speaking, I recommend mid caps. You can get these ones fairly cheap. I believe they're the Elite Force ones. They work for me. It says 140. I don't know that that's actually true, but they hold enough rounds. Those are the magazines I go with. I prefer mid caps, but if you prefer high caps, you can go with high caps. Get extra magazines, and it's not always about ammo capacity, right? Why do I have 3 mid caps? Well, that's probably ammo capacity. High cap, maybe not so much. But also one of the things is magazine reliability, right? So if you only have that one high cap, you're running around the field, let's say it's an indoor field, maybe it's a 15-minute game, so you don't need a lot of ammo. That high cap, you accidentally bump the magazine release, it hits the ground, springs go everywhere, BBs go everywhere, that's a problem. Now you're out of magazine, whereas if you have a second high cap, again, maybe it's not about ammo capacity, but if you have a second high cap, you can, acknowledge the atrocity that just happened on the floor, and then slap in a new mag, pick up the old bits, what you can, and then keep going, right? So it's not always about ammo capacity. It has to do with reliability. If you're in an outdoor field, let's say it drops, it gets dirt all up in it. You don't want that going into your gun. You shake it off, throw it in a dump pouch, throw it in a pocket, whatever the case is, slap in a fresh mag, and go about your business. But it could be about ammo capacity. As you get more into things, you might start playing longer games, different types of games, and you might need more ammo. Okay, so magazines are the second one. Now, I recommend mid caps. They're cheaper. They are more widely accepted. If someday you want to go to Milsim, well, you got mid caps at least, right? And they're my personal preference because as soon as I slap my magazine into a gun, let's say it actually does hold 140, I slap my magazine into a gun, I have 140 BBs ready to go. They're not going to rattle themselves or not going to rattle inside the magazine. I kind of like that. I don't have to wind anything with a typical high cap. You're going to get maybe 30 shots or so before you have to start winding. It depends on the high cap, obviously, but expect about 30 rounds. Whereas with that, slap a fresh mag in, 140 rounds ready to go. They're also, generally speaking, lighter, which is nice, but and they don't rattle, which is a big factor. Okay, so the next thing after that, so item number 3 on the list is some kind of speed loader. Now I got 2 options here. There are cheaper versions of this that don't hold as much, but basic speed loader. I got a few of these because they didn't lock down properly. I got them cheaper than their advertised price from my local Airsoft store when it was in business. But having these is great because you can throw them in pouches. If someone is walking around asking for a speed loader, you can hand it to them, and if you don't get it back, you're out. Well, for the normal ones, you're out like $2. Okay. Whereas with this, you're out at least 20, maybe 40, 60, whatever the case is. Also, this one does not load anything but M4 mags out of the box. There are adapters to do like AK mags and other mags, but out of the box it only loads M4 mags. Okay, that also means maybe you grabbed a pistol, right, with a typical pistol magazine. Now this one is a non-blowback, so it's a little bit different, but typical pistol magazine. And I can't load it with this. I can sort of load it with this. Okay, so maybe you pick up a cheaper one. That's fine. It'll get the job done. I would say if you are sticking with M4s, or you don't mind picking up the adapters for it, going with something like this as well or instead of is going to be a great option. For those of you who don't know what this is, you have a crank on one side, you flip that up, you take your magazine, you line it up so it's going the right way. There's a little there's a tab on the back, and there's a nozzle on the kind of thing on the front, and you wind this to load your magazine. It holds, I think this one holds 1,000, so I can load all of my magazines, and when you're done, there's a little magazine release. You just, a little stiff, which is good, but you just pull that out, and then you lock this back down. I personally don't carry it on the field most of the time. For a bigger event, I might. But this is really handy if you either are willing to buy the adapters for it, or if you're using an M4, which is the most common starter platform. It's the most common platform across the board, but it is also the most common starter platform. If you start getting into something a little more specialized like Speedsoft, your high kappas won't take that, but they will take the basic speed loaders, so that's something to consider. But for the general player, if you have the money and have a gun that fits either this or one of the adapters, I think this is a much better product. But the cheaper one definitely has its advantages. So the next thing I will recommend is something to carry water. Okay, now this is normally, if I was making a list dedicated to outdoor play, this would be higher on the list. Okay, this might be number 1. If I'm making a list for what are the first 5 things to buy for milsims, what are the first 5 things to buy for outdoor play, water. Okay, something to carry water. It doesn't need to be a Camelback. It could be, I don't recommend the old school canteens like the plastic ones, but it could just be a pouch, like a radio pouch or something like that, that holds water bottles. It could be your normal everyday backpack and you throw some water bottles in there. Something to carry water, because especially as games get longer and especially if they're outdoors. I am in Arizona, so it gets pretty warm out here, but regardless, you can still get dehydrated in the snow. Okay, so something to carry water. The reason it's low on the list is indoor fields, right? Quick game indoor fields. So if your local field that you're going to is 15-minute games, all indoors, is water as necessary? Not really, because you can either walk off the field, or if it's really a problem, or you can just wait 15 minutes at the longest and it's going to be over. So you don't really need water if you're playing at an indoor field. but generally speaking, it's good to have. And even if you are at one of those indoor fields, having bottles of water with you, if it's allowed, if you don't need to buy that there. If you do, then buy it there. But have bottles of water, have a water bottle, refillable water bottle, which is my preference because it's a little more eco-friendly and more convenient in my opinion. But even if it's just picking up a 1-gallon jug of water on your way to the field and you just have it with you, have something for water, have something for hydration. So that's number 4. Number 5 is a bit more of a quality of life thing. Okay. I went back and forth on whether or not it should be a sling or optics, but in my mind, optics probably a better bet. Now, if this was a top 6, sling might be the top 6 if you want to call it an honorable mention for sling. And it's not necessarily about carrying the rifle. I know I'm talking about it even though I said it wasn't on the list, but it's not just about carrying the rifle. It's, okay, I need to switch to my pistol, or I need to defuse a bomb, or capture a flag, or whatever the case is. I can just let my rifle go and do other things with my hands, which is always handy to be able to do. But also, maybe you slip on the pile of BBs at your indoor field, you slip and catch yourself with your hands, your rifle isn't hitting the ground. Okay, but I don't think it's as necessary as optics, right? Optics are just going to be a quality of life thing, okay, for the most part. Do you need them to play? No. Some people take off their sights altogether, but I definitely think there's a huge advantage in being able to, at a set range, pop up, find the dot, hit the target. Now, if you're playing, your maximum engagement is an indoor field at like 5 feet, okay, well, maybe that's not your shtick. If you want to buy a tracer unit, I'll lump those in with optics as well, because while you're less likely than with an optic to get that first shot on target, let's be realistic, Airsoft is largely a game of accuracy by volume. Okay, so if you are the type that no optics, maybe no light, no sights, no nothing, and you stick a tracer unit on the end instead of buying a red dot, you buy your glow-in-the-dark BBs, and you're willing to just spray and adjust fire from there, that's fine. But having some way to easily aim your shots. Personally, I prefer red dots. If you couldn't tell, I got one on my pistol, I got one on my AK, I got one on my M4. I do like rifle scopes. I have one obviously on my sniper rifle, my SSG 10A1, and I have one on my Mark 12. Those are good, but they're specific to outdoor play, longer distances, things like that. Just having a cheap red dot, which I have a review on this one, I have a review of it on my channel. It's from Amazon. It was like maybe like 30-35 bucks, something like that at the time I purchased it. Prices might change, but being able to pop up, put the dot on target, and pop around on target as soon as you get on target makes a big difference. There have been plenty of times that I have been playing that it is outside of where I can just point shoot, right? Because at a certain distance, I could do upside down, no aiming, doesn't matter, I'm going to hit the target, right? 5, 10, within about 5 yards, that's probably going to be true. I can, do whatever I need to do. I can come in over the top without sights, and at 5 yards, I can hit a target, no issue. I can hit a person, no issue. Obviously, it depends on the size of the target and all that, but within that like 15 to whatever the range of my gun is, distance, and we see each other and we both go to shoot, red dots are quicker than iron sights every day of the week. And I'm more likely to crack off that first shot, right? Because I can find my sight quicker. I can line it up on the target quicker. It's just a better option than iron sights. And at that, like, 50-yard mark, okay, 150 feet, whatever that is in meters. If I don't have a way to aim, I'm screwing myself over, right? I need a way to put dot or sights or whatever on target and actually go for what I'm aiming at. Now, back in the day, I will admit that I ran an M4 that didn't have sights, or might have just had a front sight. I know at one point I had an M4 that did not have sights, and I used that. But you also got to remember, at that time we were playing, like, the average player was playing with 2.0s, and this was an outdoor long distance field. We were playing with 2.0s. Maybe you spent the good money and got like 2.5s. There weren't really 2.3s on the market, and sniper weight BBs were like 3.0s, 2.8s to 3.0s. So things have changed over the years. Now, again, if you are shooting with a tracer unit indoors in a dark environment where you can see the BBs, and you're doing your speed soft stuff, great. Have fun. I still maintain that something like a micro red dot might be good to have on it, but you do you. But having some way to sight in your shots. With this pistol, which is, I did a review on it. It's a reduced FPS KJW Mark II, shooting about 380, something like that. And I actually use the red dot on this. Now, what I do have on the back is a little dot, so I can present, and as long as I've lined up my body straight, okay, as long as I've lined up my body straight, my hands straight, and I have this tube lined up at the target, then great, I can hit my target close up. And it is quicker than finding the dot. But if I have my dot on and I need to take, the furthest shot I've taken with this is about 60 feet, so about 20 yards, whatever that is in metric. We work in freedom fractions here. But so I can line up my red dot and pop off a shot nice and accurate. At those longer distances. Why would I be using a pistol outdoors if I have my rifle at those distances? Well, sometimes you just have your pistol out, sometimes you want to play a pistols only game, sometimes you have a DMR or a sniper rifle. It's a good idea to have. I don't recommend pistols as a first gun unless you are specifically getting into speedsoft or something of that nature. But that was just an example of having a red dot. Now, if you have something with set sights, maybe red dots aren't your preference. I promise that it is going to be faster 95% of the time than iron sights, but this is Airsoft. It's not the most accurate thing in the world anyway. Does it really matter? I would say yes, because also you can track your BBs a little bit better. But that's just my personal opinion. Now, if I had to tack on some extra things to the end of it, I would say getting a dump pouch is a good idea. A lot of people have mixed opinions on dump pouches. This is a very cheap one that I have had for, probably at least like 10 years. A lot of people have mixed opinions on dump pouches. A lot of people are re-indexing, so you pull out a magazine, you put it in your gun, you take that magazine that was in your gun, and you re-index or some variation thereof. The idea is that you're just putting empty magazines into magazine pouches rather than into a dump pouch, into a cargo pocket or something like that. Personally, I like dump pouches. There's a couple reasons why. One, that is where I keep my dead rag, which I didn't put on the list because your field might not use it, and at close ranges, yelling hit and putting your hand up is good enough. To me, it's dead rags are a little bit more long distance, or for when you're walking back to the spawn, a little bit more situational unless your field requires it. But that's where I keep my dead rag. That's where I throw extra magazines when they are spent, or maybe, like I said earlier, I dropped it in the dirt, something like that. You can also put objectives in there. Maybe it is a like capture the flag kind of thing, and the flag isn't on a pole or whatever. You can grab it, throw it in the dump pouch, and go. There, for longer or just objective-based games, you might be looking for certain things, like a treasure hunt kind of game. So you throw it in the pouch and go. It's just nice to have. If you're playing a game with medic rules, you can throw your tourniquets or whatever you're using in there. So dump pouch is nice to have. Magazine pouches are nice to have. I would say that once you get to 3 magazines or 3 spare magazines, you should probably get a magazine pouch. Before that, not really that required because, well, I have 2 hip pockets. I can quickly reload off of my hip pocket, go, okay, that's cool, and then I can take that one, put it in like the empty one, put it in a back pocket, put it in a cargo pocket, whatever, put it in a dump pouch, whatever the case is. I can take that other magazine, put it in my right hip pocket for me because I'm left-handed, or left hip pocket if you're right-handed, okay. But so you have other options. Once you get to 3 though, you have one in either front pocket, maybe one in a back pocket. It's not as convenient as having something like this on a belt, which is just a triple mag pouch, single stack. Okay, or you can have something like this, which I have a review on, which is my knockoff Haley Strategic chest rig. Holds 3 magazines right up front. It also has an admin pouch and things like that. So maybe you throw your empty into the admin pouch. Okay, you can do something like that. Airsoft doesn't need to be expensive when you're getting into it, but there are some things that are just nice to have. Optics, magazines, some things that are requirements, like obviously BBs. I didn't touch on BBs because frankly, if you're going to go play Airsoft, you need to have BBs, okay? And some indoor fields require you to use their BBs, so that's a thing. Speed loaders, you need some way, if you have mid caps, to load your mid caps that isn't hand jamming one at a time, okay? So mid caps are a bit of a requirement. Battery charger, or gas if you're running a gas gun, that's kind of a requirement, or HPA, I guess, if you want to just jump straight into the deep end of things, that's kind of a requirement. Other things that are nice to have, if you're playing indoors, I recommend getting a plate carrier of some kind, and a helmet and a face mask and gloves. You know, that's cool. Obviously, I didn't mention goggles on this. Maybe someone's already mentioned that down in the comments, but I didn't mention goggles on this because that's kind of an obvious. You buy your gun, you get goggles. If you have already gone to a rental field more than once, you probably already have your own eye pro, because wearing the paintball mask sucks. Renting goggles is weird, a little nasty, because all the sweat and stuff that builds up on them. But you already know you need goggles, right? This is for people who are buying their first gun or have just bought their first gun, and okay, what else do I need that I didn't have before, because I didn't own a airsoft gun before. I didn't have to maintain it myself. I didn't have to do things myself. So that's kind of where the perspective is on this. Obviously, PPE is probably the first thing you should buy for airsoft. I would couple that with water if you're playing at an outdoor field. Even if you are, so let's say you're borrowing a gun at an outdoor field, then that is the water, PPE, those are the first things you buy. maybe a good pair of boots too, which is, I think, important no matter where you play, but that's my opinion. But water and PPE, that should probably come before getting your own gun. So with that being said, until next time, stay safe and stay hydrated.